break down these building blocks into their constituent parts, that's when you get the mono or the singular isolated sodium salt. And becomes the byproduct to the freed up radical that is released. This is the byproduct. This is the release of that radical that the body would not process or would not allow to do what it did, because there would be protective factors when it's breaking down, when it's recognized by the peptides. When it takes the peptide links causes the body to create a certain enzyme that would protect it from the isolated sodium. But if you don't have that peptide link in the glutamic acid, that's it. Only when glutamic acid has been isolated and freed up from its natural protein form through factory processing does it have the toxic ability to fuck up our brain receptors and thus cause any of the symptoms we mentioned earlier. The MSG isolate, that is the freed up byproduct or the concentrated sodium, is used as a food additive in the form of a white crystal that looks like a fine granulated sugar or salt. It is odorless and has no distinct flavor. Think about that. It is odorless and has no distinct flavor. That's diabolical. Now listen very carefully. Since MSG can be a component of a food product, listen, since MSG can be a component of a food product, as in, for instance, soy sauce or malted barley, the FDA allows it to go into the foods unlabeled as MSG. So they know what's going on. There's a book out called Battling the MSG Myth. You need to get that. It's by George Schwartz. S-C-H-W-A-R-T-Z. In other words, George Black. That's what Schwartz means. Schwarzenegger. What do you think that means? Black nigger. Now, glutamic acid is joined as part of other amino acids in a protein by way of peptide bonds or linkages. What is a peptide? A peptide is defined as any of various or synthetic compounds containing two or more amino acids linked by a carboxyl group of one amino acid and the amino group of another. That's for you technical people out there. Two, and I'll tell you what a carboxyl group is. A carboxyl group is defined as a univalent radical, COOH, which is characteristic of all organic acids. What is a peptide bond? The peptide bond is the chemical bond between organic acid groups and amine groups, neighboring amino acids constituting the primary linkage of all protein structures. What is an amine? Amine is any of a group of organic compounds of nitrogen, like ethylamine, C2H5NH2, that may be considered ammonia derivatives, in which one or more hydrogen atoms has been replaced by a hydrocarbon radical. What is an amino? An amino pertains to an amine or other chemical compound containing NH2, nitrogen, hydrogen, with two hydrogen atoms, combined with a non-acid organic radical. What is an amino acid? An amino acid is an organic compound containing both an amino group, NH2, and a carboxyl group, COOH. It's a compound of the form NH2CHRCOOH, which is formed as essential components of the protein molecule. I did that because there's a lot of people wondering whether I know what I'm talking about, so I just say, okay, well, you go find it for yourself. Now, normally, when we eat a protein-rich food, the peptide linkages are slowly broken down or broken apart during the digestive process. But when MSG is taken into the body, it no longer has the linkages to break down, since it is now a free glutamate, a radical isolate, not bound to any other of the amino acids. As a result, the glutamate is quickly absorbed into the deeper tissue network. And the amount of glutamic acid in the blood can skyrocket to as much as 8 to 10 times the normal level. That's in the Chinese food too. Some glutamate already exists in the blood cells, but when there is an overload, the cell becomes inebriated and dysfunctional and inevitably dies. This toxic drug thus has a deadly effect not only on the brain, but the blood vessels, the intestinal muscles, and the intestinal walls. In fact, everywhere that you have blood vessels and everywhere that blood travels. So the lungs and organs are affected, changing the rhythm of your heart, your breathing, and normal hormonal secretions. Normal hormonal secretions. Name a hormone. Estrogen. Name another hormone. Testosterone. The very basis of your sexuality. The very basis of your nature. The very basis of your instinct. Fuck with the hormones, and the hormones are the messengers that maintain the instinct of the body. As a woman, you want to maintain the instinct of the gynic woman. The gynic woman is one who don't want to do things that men do, because in their nature, they don't feel like it. But if you fuck with the nature, I'm sorry, I said I promised you to get like this. But if you fuck with the nature, you fuck with the woman. She no longer wants to be a woman. She don't feel good sitting down. She want to join Shaq on the court. Think about that. If you do not have the estrogen necessary, the progesterone necessary to keep the components of the feminine principle intact, you cannot maintain the instincts and even the thinking of a woman. By the stress, the very stress that will bring upon your body will cause you to create androgenic materials. What are androgenic materials? You look at the word andro and you see man. So when a woman does a lot of stress, in order for a body that was not made for that stress to encompass the stress, the body has to create a masculine hormone in order to deal with the stress. So when a woman is running around and throwing her body on there, playing volleyball, stomping on the ground, and jumping up, boxing, want to play football, basketball, when you begin to accelerate the body beyond the stress levels, the body begins to do its own thing. And what does it do? It reacts to the stress by creating androgenic materials to match the stress so that you don't fucking kill yourself. So then you begin to start getting hard jawlines, and you start getting necks and thick back muscles and shit, and you start wanting to do like that. You even start walking like this. Check them sisters on the court. Go ahead and check them sisters in Madison Square Garden. You swear it was Michael J. You know Michael had this particular loaf that he would be checking out, right? Check the sisters. Anytime you see a sister starting to jitterbug, and you start seeing the top part doing this, that means the orientation of their instincts no longer are in the hips where they belong. Because males walk like this is because the center of gravity is up here. That's why you all like that V. Y'all like the way we walk away from you. Say, look at that, girl. And you check him to walk. When you check a man walk, you check his stride. It's a gait. But when a sister walks, because of her orientation, like I said before in the other videos, there is a orientation in the hips where the life force is. So your life force is here. So there is a sway that automatically happens. And that's why African women got that booty. It was genetically grown for us. Thank you, sisters. Thank you. The hell with all them white women want to get rid of their asses. I don't understand that shit. get rid of your ass. You want to pervert your genes.